Tom Cantney was the youngest son of a poor family living in Ofoyle Court, located in London. As long as he could remember, he longed for a better life. He was encouraged by a local priest who taught him to read and write. One day, while loitering around the palace gates, he meets Edward Tudor, the Prince of Wales. Coming too close in excitement, Tom is nearly caught and beaten by the royal guard. However, Edward stops them and invites Tom into the palace chamber. There, the two boys get to know each other. Fascinated by each other's life and their uncanny resemblance to each other, and learning that they were even born on the same day, they decided to switch places temporarily. The prince hides an item which he knows he might need later. He leaves dressed in Tom's clothes and is not recognized by the guards who drive him from the palace. He eventually finds his way through the London streets to Tom's house. There, he is subjected to the brutality of Tom's alcoholic and abusive father. He escapes Tom's father and meets Miles Hendon, a soldier and a nobleman returning from war. He tries to convince Miles that he's the Prince Edward, but Miles wouldn't believe him. Miles did, however, take a liking to him. Tom, dressed as Edward, tries to cope with court customs and manners. His fellow nobles and palace staff thinks the prince has an illness which has caused memory loss. They begin to fear that he will go mad. They repeatedly ask him about the Great Seal of England. Tom doesn't know what they are talking about. When Tom is asked to sit in judgment, his common sense and observations reassure them that his mind is sound. After a series of adventures, including a stint in prison, Edward interrupts the coronation as Tom is about to be crowned as king. The nobles are shocked at the resemblance between the two, but refuse to believe that Edward is the rightful king until he produces the Great Seal of England. Edward and Tom switch back to their original places, and Edward is crowned King Edward VI. Miles is rewarded with the rank of Earl. King Edward, because of his gratefulness to Tom for supporting him in his claim as king, made him the king's ward. Maybe you've read this story written by Mark Twain in 1881 called The Prince and the Pauper. The story is a great backdrop to James's words found in chapter 1, verses 9 through 12. He writes, "Believers who are poor have something to boast about, for God has honored them. And those who are rich should boast that God has humbled them. They will fade away like little flower in the field. The hot sun rises and the grass withers, and the little flower droops and falls, and its beauty fades away. In the same way, the rich will fade away with all of their achievements. God blesses those who patiently endure testing and temptation. Afterward, they will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him." Now, in these verses, James encourages people to calibrate. If you're poor, calibrate by recognizing the great faith developed through the trials associated with being poor. Now, if you are rich, calibrate so you do not let your wealth become your God. Why? In both cases, death is the great equalizer. Whether you are poor or rich, whether you have been dealt a good hand in life or a bad one, keep your eye on the prize, the crown of life. The crown of life is given to the poor because they were tested and they endured. The crown of life is given to the rich because they didn't yield to the temptations associated with wealth. Whatever your position in life, calibrate by focusing on the prize, the crown of life. Ask the Lord to help you, whatever your life situation is. So until next time, remember, don't just take life as it comes, calibrate it and shape it as you go. Thank you for following Calibrate. Share it with someone you know. Take a moment and review us and give us a good rating on iTunes, Google Play, Facebook, or YouTube.